Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Stahl here. I just want to take a moment to kind of show you where we're at as a class and just kind of get you prepared for Monday when we start math. So you're going to have a few different teachers, and I will be your homeroom teacher, and I will teach you ELA and I will teach you math. So in math, it's kind of difficult because we're merging two different classrooms together. And from my understanding, you did not yet get to Unit 5. So I just wanted to show you kind of what to expect on a day-to-day, and I also kind of wanted to just skim over Unit 5 and kind of show you different things you can practice before Monday, so we're kind of on the same page. So your typical day in math in Google Classroom around 9:40, which is after specials, 9:50, you will see this pop up, okay? And this is going to say, okay, this is what we're doing in math today. The first thing is you will have this Google Doc right here to complete. I just focus on 3 questions that kind of go over things that I've already taught you. And it's just a way to kind of practice and keep your skills strong. Once you're finished completing what we call the challenge questions, which are those 3 questions, it looks like this, right? So when you click this Google Doc, it's going to look just like this right here. It's going to show you 3 different questions and then a challenge question. A challenge question is a challenge. I really like for you guys to focus on the 3 square questions that are blue, because those are all review. Those are things that you should have already been taught, and it's a way to just kind of keep those skills strong. So here you can see an example of 3 1/3 plus 4/5. So addition and then subtraction of a mixed number and a fraction, and then just comparing the fractions. And then this is only for A, okay? So you're gonna give me the answer for A, and then you'd have multiple choice options for each of these in the Google Doc. This should take you between 10 and 20 minutes to complete. And then you see the weird ranch dressing. You can just ignore. That's just the picture that we posted on that specific day. And then once you're done with and you complete the challenge questions and you submit them, you will go then to the second portion of math, which is a video that I made for that lesson. Okay. One thing that I noticed we were having issues with, a bunch of lag during the Zoom sessions. So what I started to do is I will shoot my first portion of math as a YouTube video that you can watch, just like this YouTube video. And then this is me teaching the new concept, going over a few problems, sometimes going over the answers to the challenge questions. So your first thing that you're gonna do is complete the challenge questions. The second thing you're gonna do is watch the video. And then the third thing you're gonna do after you complete those things, those 2 items, is you will meet me at 10:30 for a live Zoom with the class, and we'll go over the new math lesson live as well. And then usually we have some sort of a short homework assignment after that. And then this is an example of on the YouTube channel, 3 of the different videos that I posted that week. So division, Unit 5 is division, and you should have already learned long division in 4th grade. I always tell my students, I just expect that you didn't learn it because it's a difficult concept, and we all know how last year went. So just an overall view, there's 3 different ways to divide. Okay, there's 3 different ways that I focus on dividing. They're like tools you can take out of your math tool belt to divide. And you use the different tools for different reasons. So the first tool is what we call the slice method. So you might notice this is a Minecraft picture. I believe it's Minecraft. And you've already been taught the slice method, and it'll look familiar when I show you here in a second. And the second method is the Kentucky chicken fried method, we call it, the keep, change, flip method. And then the third method is the house method. Now, let me just explain these methods real quick. So the very first method is the slice method. The reason we use this method is if your answer is kind of goofy and small, like we have 9 cookies, but we're going to split that between 10 people. So that's 9 divided by 10. And you might be like, ooh, what do I put that in a house? 9 divided by 10? No, that doesn't look right. No, actually your answer, every division problem is already a fraction. So 9 divided by tenths is actually 9/10. You slice it. Okay, so you can slice any division problem, and it even works with like your quote unquote normal division problems, like 20 divided by 5. We know that 20 divided by 5 is 4. And if we ever were to slice that one, we get an improper fraction of 20/5. And 20/5 is also equal to 4. So you can slice any division problem, but it makes the most sense when your answer is a fraction. When your answer is going to be a fraction, slicing makes the most sense. Okay, so that's one thing that we put in our math tool belt is the slicing method. The other one's called the Kentucky chicken fried method. So we absolutely do not like dividing fractions. Yuck, no, disgusting. So we don't have to divide fractions because you can use the keep, change, flip method that you should have been taught in, I believe, unit 4, if I remember correctly, with multiplying and dividing fractions. It could have been unit 3. So keep, half, half, change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then flip the last term. Well, right now the term is 5. So 5 is the same thing as 5 over 1. So to flip it, it turns into 1/5. So the question is, you have half of something, you're dividing it between 5 people, how much does each person get? Well, the keep, change, flip helps us realize that each person gets 1 times 1 is 1, 5 times 2 is 10, 1/10. Okay, so those are your two methods. And then the house method is the method that you've always been taught. Whenever you think of division, the house method is right here. So this problem is 25 divided by 5. And the way that you'd complete that, you'd find that answer is use the house method. The first number, which is the dividend, goes inside the house. The second number, which is the divisor, goes on the outside. How many 5s go into 25? 5. And that's your answer. Okay. So when would we use the house method? Well, we would use the house method for all of our quote unquote normal division or long division. So that's when we use the house method. When would we use the keep, change, flip method? When we're working with fractions. We don't like to divide fractions, so we use keep, change, flip. And then when you use the slice method, usually when your answer is a fraction or when your answer is very small. All right, so, well, I went in the wrong order. So that's when you use the slice and the keep, change, flip, and then you use the house method, as we said, when you're using your quote unquote normal division. You put the dividend inside, that's what you're going to make the groups of. And then how many groups is your divisor? You put that on the outside. And then how do you divide? Well, you focus on that divisor, that outside number, and you just do 3 things. You pull out groups from the number. You say how many groups you put on top. Like I pulled out 4 groups, you put 4 up here. And then you got to figure out what's left over. And then when you figure out what's left over, you just bring down the next number. And then you repeat the process. Take out groups from that, put it here, tell me what's left over, bring down the next number. Pull out groups from that, put that answer up there, tell me what's left over, bring down the next number. So let's come up with an example, shall we? Just to kind of refresh your memory. And these are the kind of questions that I'd like for you to practice before Monday. You have 5,105, and you're dividing by 5. So this is what we're making groups of, and you just go into the problem. The first thing we can make groups of is 5. How many 5s are in 5? 1. you make sure to put it right on top of the number you're taking it from. And then you say what's left over. Well, I took all 5 from 5, so nothing's left over. Cool. Now you're done with that place value. Bring down the next number. Now you repeat it. How many 5s can come from 1? Well, 0, right? Don't say 5 because you're not taking 1s from 5. You're taking 5s from 1. You can't make any groups. So right above that place value, we put nothing. And then what's left? Well, everything's left. You didn't take anything away. Everything's left. Now you bring down the next number. How many 5s go into 10? 2. What's left over? Nothing's left over. Everything's taken away. Everything's taken away. Nothing's left over. So now you have to bring down the next number. And now, how many 5s come from 5? Well, how many 5s come from 5? 1. What's left over? Nothing. We took everything from that 5 to make one group. So your answer is 1,021. Okay? Perf. Wonderful. Great grand. All right. Let's move on. So that's how we divide. And if you get confused and you really don't feel like you've learned this, and remember, this was a 4th grade standard. If you really don't think that you've learned this and you're confused about it, just go on YouTube and put long division. Find examples, pause it, come up with your answer, and then see if your answer matches their answer. And if it doesn't, try to figure out what you did different. So remember, there's really only 3 steps. You pull out the groups, right? Here, I can use it. And don't make fun of me when I use the mouse pen because I'm horrible at it. How many 5s come out of 5? 1. You say what's left over. Well, none. And then you bring down the next number. And then you start over. How many 5s are in 1? None. What's left over? Well, everything's left over, right? You didn't take anything from it. So then you bring down the next number to go with it. How many 5s are in 10? 2. What's left over? Well, when you took 10 away, nothing's left over. Bring down the next number. How many 5s are in 5? 1. What's left over? Nothing. Nothing is left over. Okay? All right. Let's move on. So remember, inside is your dividend. This is what you start with. Outside is your divisor. This is what you're making groups of or what you're splitting between. And then your quotient's your answer. Now we go to actually Unit 5. Unit 5 has to deal with not dividing, but dividing with decimals. When the decimal is inside the dividend, that's fine. It's allowed to be inside the dividend. There's nothing wrong with it. All you got to do is float the decimal right up in your answer. But if that decimal's in your divisor, there's only one thing to do. You just got to panic. You're not allowed to have a decimal in the divisor. So I'm going to have to show you what you're going to do when that decimal is in that divisor. Well, first, let's start with the wonderful one. Let's start with when your decimal is only in the dividend. 51 and 500 divided by 5. Well, we're taking 5s. Oh, well, when it's just in the dividend, this is all that happens. Boom, 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 boom. It just floats up. That's it. That's all you have to do. Float it up perfectly forward. Now, 5 goes into 5 one time. What's left over? Nothing. Bring down the 1. 5 goes into 1 0 times. What's left over? Well, the whole thing, right? So you can put, well, I took nothing away, so there's 1 left over. That's fine. You cannot take down a decimal, so it just has to make sure it's floated up. How many 5s go into 10? 2. What's left over? Nada. And then bring down the 5 to go along with it. How many 5s go into 5? 1. So your answer is 10 and 21/100ths. That's it. That's all you do. We like it when the decimal is only in the dividend. Kermit knows what's coming next. He gets it. We're going to start talking about that decimal being in the divisor. It's okay, Kerm. We're going to get through this one, buddy. All right. Here we go. We got that decimal in the divisor, just like we were a little nervous about, right? There's nothing to be nervous about. You're not allowed to divide when the decimal is in the divisor, but there's a trick. There's a way to get rid of that decimal in the divisor. Whenever the decimal is in the divisor, you need to turn it into a whole number. How do you turn it into a whole number? You move the decimal this way. And then you just got to tell yourself, how many times did you move it that way? Well, once. If you're familiar with scientific method, you're multiplying it by times 10 to the first power, right? But you don't even need to know that. You just got to say, I moved it over one spot. Now, before we can actually come up with this answer, you just have to be fair. If you move the decimal over one spot on the outside of the house, you have to move the decimal over one spot on the inside of the house. Now we have our new problem. This turned into a 5. This turned into a 510.5. So that turned into 510.5. This answer is going to be our answer. 5 goes into 5 one time. There's nothing left over. Bring down the 1. How many 5s go into 1? None. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. What's left over? Everything. Bring down the 10. How many 5s go into 10? 2. We got a decimal. Make sure it's up there. There was nothing left over when we took away the 10. Bring down the 5. How many 5s go into 5? 1. So your answer is 102 and 1/10. Bada bing, bada boom. See, Kerm? You didn't have anything to worry about, man. Whenever the decimal's on the outside, move it over. Whatever you move over here, you got to do here. That way, this answer stays even. Once you do that, rewrite the problem. Now, find your answer. This answer will be the real answer. We'll try one last one. .5, 5,105. Well, this is different because 5,105 divided by 5/10, it only has one decimal. The decimal's right here. So when you move it over here, well, what do you do over here? Well, what's 5,105 times 10 to the first power? Well, this one has an invisible decimal after it, right? Because a decimal comes after a whole number. So you can move it over once, which just is going to add a 0. So we have a new problem. That new problem is 51050 divided by 5. 5 goes into 5 one time. What's left over? Nothing. Bring down the 1. 5 goes into 1 0 times. What's left over? The whole thing. How many 5s go into 10? 2. What's left over? Nothing. How many 5s go into 5? 1. What's left over? Nothing. How many 5s go into none? Well, none. So that answer is 10,210. If you're confused or you feel overwhelmed, yeah, I just taught you basically an entire unit in what, a half hour? You're allowed to be confused and overwhelmed. One thing that's cool about the way that I run through math is every day you have the challenge questions. Challenge questions are all review, and I explain them kind of like this every single day. So as long as you've been exposed to it by watching this video, and we have the challenge questions, which I will purposely put questions like this out there to reteach it to you, I think you'll be fine and dandy. All right. Make sure that you go to all the Zoom sessions, make sure you watch all the videos, make sure you ask questions, and we should have a very successful math experience. All right, I hope the video helped. I hope you feel a little bit more comfortable about Monday, and I look forward to joining some new faces in our class. All right, bye.